Hi students, Mrs. Kirk here to talk with you about the use of our Prose constructed evidence-based rubric. Now, just so you realize prose, this word prose, it means sentences that end with punctuation and not poetry. So when we have something that's prose constructed, it's constructed in sentences and larger paragraphs. Evidence-based means that whatever text that you've read, you're drawing text evidence from it. Remember that text evidence is when you copy an exact quote to support your claim or to support the ideas in your essay. So let's go through the rubric right now and just take a look at it so that you can understand how you'll be using it this year. And you will be using this same rubric all year long, as well as in 8th grade. This is a variation of the rubric that your essays for Park will be used or will be judged upon. So the rubric has 4 points across the top. A 4 would equate to a score of a 100. A 3 would equate to a percentage of a 90, if you will. A 2 would be an 80. A 1 would be a 70. And a 0 could be anything from 65 and below. So if you wanted to go ahead and write those numbers on your rubric so that it gives you a better understanding of the point value, if you will. And if you want to go, like, say, if you have a score of a 3-4, that would be a 95. A 2-3 would be an 85. A 1-2 would be a 75. And if something is a 0-1, then it would be, in the 65 area there. Okay. It's important to take a look at what's going on in the top of the rubric. This top band, the opening and the closing, that's the band that carries the most weight. So why don't we just take a look at the qualities of a high scoring essay, which would be a 4. Okay, so in order to score 4, you want to have a strong opening and closing, and this should include the title, the author, and the genre, or tag, as we've said in class. The opening is just as important as the closing. Notice that if you're missing a part of a closing or you don't have a closing, it reduces your score significantly because the closing is just as important as the opening. Next item, you need to consider, does your response show a full comprehension of the question that's being asked and the text that you're using to respond to it? And the ways that you can do that right here, look, you need to have a summary, at least a 1 or 2 sentence summary of the text. When you're using clear reasoning, that means you're answering the question. And when it says that you're providing analysis of the text, you're answering in your own words and you're explaining it. Being able to explain in your own words is really key to a high-scoring essay or paragraph, if the case may be. In terms of focus, have you addressed all parts of the prompt? And does the response give development of it? In other words, do they explain it well, or do they just give the answer? Okay, so if they explain it well, then they'd be in that 4 category. If they're minimally explaining, you're moving over. Here we're addressing the prompt and providing some development, and then minimal development, and on down the line. The reason that this rubric is a text-based response rubric is for this band right here, the use of text evidence. You must have text evidence in your response, or you're not going to score any higher than a 1. Okay, without text evidence, you can explain all you want, but if you're not using text evidence, you really can't score much above a 70 or a 75. Okay, and your text evidence needs to not just be there, but it should be relevant, meaning you're answering the question, or it should be convincing, meaning the text evidence proves your point. Make note that the text evidence should not be used as your answer. It's being used to support your answer. That's why you really do have to explain your point. In terms of fluency, the big key here is going to be using transitions, because the transitions help to create coherence, meaning your response sticks together. It's clear. All right, and it flows. Okay, you can see that it flows to follow the progression of ideas. Moving over, is it easy to follow? Okay, but here you're purposely using some transitions to show your skill and provide good flow to your writing. The bottom band here is grammar, mechanics, and usage. Are you using a formal and effective style, meaning that you're avoiding words like gonna and a lot, and you're paying attention to how words are spelled, that you're incorporating sophisticated and higher level vocabulary? If you're incorporating a semicolon, that you have periods and punctuation on the end of every sentence. You're showing command of language. You're not just doing what you know is correct. You're making the extra step, again, to show command, that you're the boss, okay? Over here, you might have a few errors, okay? Overall, the way the scoring works is you decide the response that you have, in which category do most of the items fall. Okay, so for example, if you have a paper that has a strong opening and closing, but it doesn't explain well, and there is text evidence, but it might not be very effective, but it was well written with good transitions and very few errors, then even though things are sort of in the 3-4 area, you have to decide, is it more 4 or more 3, or you could give a half score of 3-4, which would be a 95. Overall, the more that you use the rubric, the easier it will be to grade accurately. What we always will do at the end of reviewing a peer's paper, meaning another person in class, is we will provide the score. We will provide 3 reasons why we gave that score. And the reasons should come from the rubric. It should be in rubric language, not that it was good, but maybe the person had a strong opening and closing, that they provided effective development, and they had effective use of the text evidence. Similarly, if the paper is weak, you might say that the person was lacking an opening or closing. There was minimal development of the topic, or if they had a lot of grammar, spelling, punctuation errors, that they showed limited command of mechanics. Okay, so you need to provide 3 reasons for your score. Generally, we like to provide 3 positive reasons and also 3 areas of improvement. So overall, you're providing your score, 3 things that 3 elements the writer did well, 3 elements where the writer needs to improve, and then we always provide our name that shows accountability and ownership. And also, if the person has a question, they can always come to you. When you read your feedback from another student, you don't have to like it and you don't have to agree with it. It is just being given to you for your consideration. Ultimately, you get your own self-reflection where you can indicate what you believe you did well, what areas you feel you could improve upon. Again, 3 of each, and also a self-score for the overall grade at the end. This helps you to become a more reflective writer and learn from your weaknesses as well as develop your strengths. Okay, so this is our rubric, and again, it's your friendly neighborhood rubric for language arts. We'll be using it all year. So thanks for watching.